Here that with all the Peter stuff, obviously they're not going to remember who he is no. What we're hearing. And so what are we going to see for that dynamic, especially between Peter and Olivia?
Well, you see a man come back to a life of people that he knew, but they don't know him, essentially. Yeah, I mean, he's a stranger to everyone. Except he knows a lot of stuff.
And he has such significance to both Olivias. You know, do they have different reactions to this guy?
Well, of course. I mean, I think they have different reactions to people in general. But yeah, I don't know. I've got to be careful with what I say.
Well, how long does this kind of part of the story stretch out before things go to the next level? We're hearing different things about episode 4, episode 8.
Well, as far as Peter being, not of this timeline, I mean, that's not going to change unless we move timelines, you know. So that's a question for our showrunners.
Do you think that, I mean, they had strong love between them. Do you think that love is stronger than a time paradox? I'm not sure. I don't know what they're gonna do with that. But certainly, in this timeline, Olivia doesn't know who he is, and it took the other, in the Peter's timeline. I mean, it took them a long time to get together. So I don't know.
We've heard rumblings about a character from the past coming back. What can you tease about that, if anything?
Yeah, if anything, that they're not back yet.
Yeah.
So I haven't done anything yet, but I'm excited, and I think everybody had been hoping for a while that it would resurface.
I'm assuming that Bolivia does not have a child, because who would be the father?
Yeah.
But eventually there's a lot of good drama there with everyone.
With the child?
Yeah. Are you hoping to get to revisit that at some point?
Only because I really love kids. And working with a cute little kid would be like quite a lovely distraction. But yeah, no, I mean, like, it's not possible if they've never met. Then possible. So unless we end up going back to the other timeline, which may happen, I'm not sure. Yeah, little Henry is no more.
John was telling us how he can't help but root for original Olivia, when it's like the two of them. You playing both characters, do you have that vested interest in one over the other, or is it interesting for you to have sympathy for both of them?
It's funny, because I guess it depends on what the story is that we're telling, in that particular episode. You're always kind of more, you're always more engaged when you're doing stuff that's like connected to something you've set up, or connected to people that relationships with the people that you've been working with. But I guess of course I love Olivia. I've been she's who she is. But for me, I don't know, because we call her Olivia still in the script, is she's still kind of fresh. I don't get to play with her all that often, so it's just like a lovely break and change of pace. And I was saying to the others just before too, in the alternate universe, Lincoln is in charge of the Fringe team, and so he kind of carries the weight of of the stuff that Olivia has to carry on this side, which is very serious, very straight, very responsible, and that's that's tiring. Whereas in the alternate universe, because it's Lincoln, I can just kind of come in and do my thing, and so it's easier.
Having Seth now playing the Lincoln in the main universe, and having that different chemistry of this.
Yeah, and it's completely different. I love their interaction in the alt universe. I think they're so buddy, and it's like, I don't know, they feel like it feels like they're very much a team. Mm-hmm. But it was super weird, because I hadn't, when Lincoln first appeared on this universe,
it was during the Bell stuff, so I didn't work with him at all. And so the beginning of this season, it was like, oh, it's Seth, but no, it's not. It's not the Seth I remember, you know. So that's been fun, actually.
They've made note of a lot of the differences now of this timeline. Olivia, she murdered her father, all that. Are we going to find out some more about the sort of past and the differences there as well?
Yeah, we are, and yeah, I guess mainly for me anyway, the differences aren't so much in the character. It's really in the relationships. You know, and obviously differences because there was no Peter, so the relationship between Walter and Olivia is a little closer, a little warmer, I think, and Astrid's obviously much more part of the team, and with other characters too, like Nina, and we haven't seen Nina yet, but there's some fun stuff coming up between her and Olivia.
Sorry.
No, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, so playing Olivia and Bolivia, is it an easier switch for you now since you've been doing it for a while to play both?
Yeah, they do blend into each other a little bit because you change so quickly, and when they're doing the interaction, you literally have to lock the camera and then go change and come straight back, so there's no space in between, there's no easing into it, and you need to be focused. But it's because Seth also has alternate characters too, and what's funny is I'm actually finding it harder being the one not changing, because I think when you're playing both, you're aware that you need to be so on top of what you're doing and so on top of who you are that you kind of are, I don't know, you've really prepped. But when you're, when I'm saying Olivia and I'm looking at the other two, that's when you're like, oh, because it's not you, and then what are you going to do? And I can't, and so I found that tough.
Lance has said that there'll be probably more of a common threat sort of uniting the two sides.
Right, yeah. That's right.
Go on. He also said that episode 8, which you guys are now...
Trick me with what he said.
I'm just...
He said that you'll tell us everything.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Sure.
I'll show you on the camera.
Yeah.
He said that episode 8 is a big game changer for this season. He said it was pretty huge.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that? I know you probably you can't just tell us, but can you elaborate on that?
Well, I think all the things that you're sort of getting little pieces of kind of culminate in this episode. Things like, what's Peter's role going to be? Is there a threat? Can the two universes come together? Who's responsible for this? There's a bunch of stuff kind of gets picked up. A lot of the balls that we threw up kind of end up coming out.
Do you think we've seen the last of William Bell?
I think in the form of Leonard Nimoy, yes.
What's the relationship like with Walternate and Bolivia at this point? Again, not being sure what their history is now. They obviously split apart last season, and are much more. She was kind of willing to see the other side's perspective much more than he is. What's that relationship like now?
Well, I think that when that started to kind of when that relationship shifted was when Henry was born, and he realized that, and so because that hasn't happened, he's the Secretary of Defense, and ultimately I think that he is to Bolivia how he was when we first met her and him. He's the big boss.
John said that at the beginning of the season that you guys all had your own conversations about, okay, how does this change everything, and how would the cases we've done be different?
But then we couldn't. What did he say at the end of that?
He said that you realized that most of them could work without Peter, but that there were certainly some that Peter would have to have been there for. So you have to kind of think about that history.
Well, I think they also just they choose them when they want to, But we had we sort of sat down and wanted to talk a lot about that, but we didn't know. I mean, we didn't really get that much time to. You just don't really get that much time to sort of think about it and prep. And there's some stuff that I would have loved to have kind of sat down and worked through, but you have to do it within the confines of what you've been given. And so I still don't. That sounds terrible to say, but of course I still don't know what cases we solved and what cases we didn't. We've done 66 episodes. I can't even remember the name of the last one we shot. You sort of just if it comes up and you're like, oh, this would be it, then you go back and sort of really check it out. But apart from that, you just play the relationships, really, or the